Today I want to show you how to put together this cute little chocolate bunny box card. To start, normally I don't show this, but I'm using chalk to chalk the edges of all the panels, and I like that because it gives it kind of a little frame. So I'm going to do those side panels, and then I'll do the panel that's behind the front panel. I'm not going to do the inside panel. You can't really see that. But I use chalk, and I like it because it gives it kind of a little bit of an edge and also a softness to the edge. And normally what I do when I chalk is I do it on a spare piece of paper. I don't like getting it on my craft mat because then I have to just clean it off later anyways. And this way I can just move the piece of paper after I'm done and then continue gluing the project on the craft mat. And you'll see also that I also added some glitter glue, Stickles glitter glue, to the front of the card as well before assembling. And that's another reason why I like using chalk rather than ink, because you can erase it. So here's the last piece, and I did actually use a fun embossing folder for this. It's called Starry Night. Not quite sure, but it looked like flowers to me. It's from SVGs. Actually, I guess I did chalk the inner panel. I didn't mean to do that. You can barely see it. And if you do use an inner panel like I did, which is behind the bunny insert, you might want to use a light one because the dark one makes it just a little bit dark to see the bunny. So now that they have all chalked edges, we'll start by piecing them together. So we'll piece that solid front piece to the back of the cutout piece with the flowers. Just make sure the inside bunny piece, cutout piece edges are aligned. Let's make sure before you secure it down that everything is aligned properly. And then because I embossed it, I flipped it over and applied additional pressure. It's not so easy gluing a panel onto an embossed panel. You can barely see it. It was a cute pattern, but you could really just give it a little texture. Then add just a little bit more chalk in the middle because the pink showing a little bit. Just wanted to give it a little bit of a border. So you can pre-fold the card like you see before you apply the top panel. And when you do glue on the top panel, you want to have that inner edge. You'll see the card a little bit in the middle. You want to try to make it as even as possible. And if you have to flip it over, I usually flip it over to apply additional pressure. You don't have to pre-fold the card like that if you don't want. You can always do it in the next step. But it is helpful to add these panels prior to assembling. Really doesn't matter with box cards because you can always fold them flat anyways. That's the nice thing about box cards. They open and look dimensional, but you can actually flatten them and put them into an envelope. So center those side panels. And the paper I'm using, the cardstock, it was a pre-embossed cardstock, so it's kind of fun. There's a link below in the notes. Then we're going to add the Happy Easter. And I use a little fine tip applicator, but you could use something like a Zig pen. That's another pen that I've used to use real small words. Some people use Xyron sticker machines too, but I'm not particularly thrilled with the residue that you get from Xyrons. I've tried many times, but some people like them, some people are not so keen on them. So there's that zig blue that you could use upside down. Here we go. A lot of people use that, and I use that in some of my fine little words to glue them on. So there's that front and sides. Next we're going to put together the insert. If you have the same color bunny as the insert, really, it's not really necessary to add that little bunny panel, but I did anyways. And I just folded those tabs on the ends forward because that's how we're going to glue it. And I'm using remnants of pop dots to actually, it's just foam dots, but once you get done with it, there's still something to use. So I'm going to use it, and I'm going to pop that up a little bit. So if you were using white paper, you could white insert, you could just use a chocolate bunny if you wanted to, or you could not put, if you're doing both the chocolate insert and a chocolate bunny, you wouldn't have to use that panel. So here we're assembling the teeny little bow that goes on to the chocolate bunny. And I'm using a pick-me-up tool, the silhouette pick-me-up tool, and dropping it. There you go, you see how cute that little bow is. Then attach it to the bunny. You could also attach a little eyeball too, that would be fun. I didn't include it with the file, but I thought it would be fun. Whimsical. And now that's done and ready to be attached. So normally with my box cards I attach the insert later, but with this it's just helpful to do it while it's still open. So it's going to go in like you saw it backwards like that. We're going to add glue to one side, one tab. You want to line on up the edge of the tab to the front and align it to the bottom as well. And you can see what it's doing, it's allowing the spacing, and you'll see how it flips up. Just make sure you're doing it the correct direction. And those tabs are facing forward. Then go ahead and glue the second one. Again, making sure that that end meets the front corner there, and that it's aligned on the bottom so you can see it through that gap. Then you'll want to flatten it. Sometimes there's a little excess. It doesn't flatten well until you do this. So you want to flatten one way and then the other way. This will help you also put it together. It'll self-adjust just in case you're a little bit crooked. So now that's in there. And applying that pressure when you flatten also helps to glue it, to make sure that it's secure. So now we're going to add that back piece. We'll just add glue to that side tab. And then align the edge of the back piece to the tab fold. And just apply pressure. Just be careful that you're not getting excess glue on the bunny. If you get it on the back, hardly anybody's going to see it anyways, but you don't want it sticking to the back. And then you can see I flipped it over and applied pressure within. So because it's square, it makes it easy, or rectangular I should say. You want to add glue to the other side. And then you'll just flip the other side over, and it should align pretty well, but you just want to make sure that it aligns on the top and bottom, and the edge aligns with that tab fold again. So as you can see, just folding it over, applying additional pressure, and that's basically it. Let me get it in frame there. So there is an internal panel, so if you don't want to see the tabs, that you can add, but again I would not use a dark color again. So you want to add glue and carefully insert it. So you're just going to kind of really carefully insert it, making sure there's a little edge around all sides in the back, not getting it on the bunny, and center it before you apply pressure, Then you can just put your fingers in there, and then once you've got it set in place, you can flatten it to apply additional pressure. And there's one other piece, you don't have to put it on there, but I just added a little sentiment piece that you could add a little message with a little flower. You couldn't see it very well in the white, so I'm going to chalk the edges a little bit, because white on white, you can't see it very well. And then we'll apply it to the back. And this is nice, just to add your little personal Easter message, or just sign it, but you don't need to add it. Some people just write on the back, or they don't write at all. So here's a finished card, and I'm going to show you what it looks like after I add a couple rhinestones and some stickles to the middle of the flowers. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this project, and thank you for watching.